I watched from the corner of the lavish ballroom as my daughter Sophia balanced a heavy tray of champagne flutes, her designer dress hidden beneath the black apron my sister-in-law, Victoria, had thrust at her an hour ago. "Mom," she whispered as she passed me, "Aunt Victoria said I need to serve the entire West Wing before I'm allowed to sit down." "Just a little longer, sweetheart," I murmured, briefly touching her hand. Sometimes the best lessons require patience. Victoria's voice cut through the elegant party chatter. "Isabella, why is your daughter dawdling? These glasses won't serve themselves." My sister-in-law stood in her element, presiding over her son Bradley's graduation party like a queen holding court. The prestigious Morgan Academy's ballroom glittered with wealth and influence, all here to celebrate Bradley's acceptance into Harvard, a feat Victoria attributed to proper breeding, rather than the substantial donation her family had made. If only she knew that the Morgan Academy's largest benefactor was standing right here, watching her abuse my daughter. "Sorry, Aunt Victoria." Sophia straightened her shoulders, moving faster through the crowd of elite guests who looked through her as if she were invisible. "I don't understand why you allow this." My husband, Michael, appeared beside me, his jaw tight with anger. "One word from you and—" "Not yet." I squeezed his hand. "Let them show everyone exactly who they are." We kept my success quiet for years, building my foundation and investment empire under layers of corporate anonymity. While Victoria and her husband George flaunted their old money and social connections, I had quietly become one of the city's most influential philanthropists. The Morgan Academy's board knew me only as Ms. I.R., the mysterious donor who had saved them from bankruptcy last year. "Isabella." Victoria beckoned imperiously. "Since you and Sophia insist on being here, you might as well make yourselves useful. The caterers need help in the kitchen." Around us, society mothers smirked behind their champagne glasses. They had never understood why Victoria's wealthy brother had married beneath him, bringing a scholarship student's daughter into their privileged world. "Actually," I said pleasantly, "I need to make a phone call about the Foundation's annual education grant." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Your little charity project? How sweet, though I doubt it compares to the Morgan Academy's major donors." She laughed, turning to her social circle. "Isabella thinks running a small foundation makes her one of us." "Mom," Sophia approached again, her voice trembling. "Bradley and his friends are throwing napkins on the floor and making me pick them up. They said it's good practice for my future career." Before I could respond, Victoria swooped in. "Well, darling, not everyone can be born for greater things. Just look at your mother, all that education, and what did it get her? A tiny foundation and a charity board position." The wealthy crowd tittered, enjoying the show. Victoria had spent years orchestrating these little moments of humiliation, never suspecting that her charity case sister-in-law controlled more wealth than her entire social circle combined. "Speaking of the board," I said carefully, "I heard Morgan Academy is announcing its new chairperson tonight." "Yes," Victoria preened. "George is practically guaranteed the position. We've made sure the right people know about our families' contributions." My phone buzzed, right on schedule. The board's decision had just been finalized. "Isabella," George's voice boomed across the room, "stop distracting the help. Bradley needs more champagne for his Harvard toast." My daughter flinched but lifted her tray again. I watched Bradley and his friends snicker as they deliberately made her task harder, dropping glasses and spilling drinks. "Careful with that champagne," Victoria called out. "It's worth more than your mother makes in a month." The breaking point came when Bradley stuck out his foot, sending Sophia stumbling. The tray crashed to the floor, crystal shattering across imported marble. "You clumsy girl," Victoria shrieked. "Do you have any idea what you've done? This is what happens when we let certain people into our circles." Sophia burst into tears, dropping to her knees to clean up the mess while Bradley and his friends laughed. "That's enough." My quiet voice cut through the chaos. "Excuse me?" Victoria turned, her face flushed with vindictive pleasure. I said that's enough. I moved to help Sophia up, removing the apron from her trembling shoulders. No more serving. No more humiliation. No more pretending. "How dare you?" Victoria stepped closer. "This is my son's party, and if I say your daughter serves—" "Actually," I interrupted smoothly, "this is Morgan Academy's property. And as of 5 minutes ago, I have something to say about how people are treated here. Victoria's perfectly plucked eyebrows drew together in confusion. What are you talking about? My phone buzzed again. Another perfectly timed notification. Around us, other phones began chiming as the news went live. Mom? Sophia whispered, understanding dawning in her eyes. Is it time? I smiled, wrapping an arm around my daughter's shoulders as I prepared to teach Victoria and her social circle an expensive lesson about judgment and karma. Yes, sweetheart, I believe it is. The synchronized chiming of phones throughout the ballroom created a symphony of revelation. I watched as the elite crowd, so quick to laugh at my daughter moments ago, began reading the breaking news about Morgan Academy's mysterious benefactor finally stepping into the light. This must be a mistake, Victoria sputtered, staring at her phone. The foundation that saved Morgan Academy last year, that's providing 90% of the scholarship funds, is mine. I finished calmly, though I prefer Ms. IR in board meetings. Isabella Reynolds has such a common ring to it, doesn't it? George pushed through the crowd, his face mottled with rage. You're lying. The board chairperson position has just been announced. I checked my watch. Congratulations on your nomination, George. Unfortunately, the board voted unanimously for someone else. Someone who's demonstrated a more inclusive vision for the Academy's future. Bradley, who had been smirking throughout his cousin's humiliation, suddenly went pale. But Harvard. Yes, about that. I turned to my nephew. The acceptance letter you've been waving around all evening. The one your mother claims proves your superior breeding. Perhaps we should discuss the sizable donation that preceded it. Victoria grabbed her son's arm. You wouldn't dare. Actually, I would. You see, my foundation has a strict policy against enabling privileged bullies. We prefer supporting students who earn their accomplishments. The whispers around us grew louder as Manhattan's elite realized they'd spent years mocking one of their largest benefactors. Every charity gala, every school fundraiser, every scholarship they'd attributed to their own generosity, all had flowed from the pocket of the woman they'd dismissed as a charity case. Sophia. I turned to my daughter, who now stood straight-backed, her tears dried. Would you like to tell your cousin about your Harvard acceptance? The one you earned with your perfect GPA and research project. Victoria's perfectly lipsticked mouth fell open. That's impossible. What's impossible? Michael stepped forward. Is it you thought you could treat my daughter like a servant and face no consequences? The annual funding review is next month, isn't it? I mused aloud. The board might be interested in hearing about tonight's little incident, how the chairman nominee's family treats scholarship students. You can't. George's voice cracked. The Academy needs those funds. Yes, it does, I agreed. Just like it needed them last year when your mismanagement nearly bankrupted the school. Tell me, have you explained to your social circle exactly where all that endowment money went? The crowd's murmuring grew more intense. Victoria's carefully curated social status was evaporating by the second. Perhaps, I continued, we should discuss this somewhere more private, unless you prefer everyone here to learn exactly how their donations have been reallocated over the years. Bradley, finally grasping the severity of the situation, stepped forward. Cousin Sophia. Save it, Sophia cut him off. I've spent years watching you and your friends mock scholarship students, calling us charity cases, making us feel worthless. Now you know what it feels like to need someone's charity. Victoria made one last attempt to salvage her dignity. The board won't stand for this. We have connections. Had connections, I corrected. Amazing how quickly loyalties shift when people discover who really holds the purse strings. The sound of another tray crashing made everyone jump. One of Bradley's friends had dropped his drinks in shock, but no one was rushing to make Sophia clean it up this time. Well, I smiled. I believe it's time for the new board chairperson to make her first executive decision. Starting tomorrow, Morgan Academy will implement some changes, starting with how we treat all our students. Victoria's face crumpled as reality finally sank in. Her perfectly orchestrated social hierarchy was collapsing, and there was nothing her old money could do to stop it. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't just revealing your power, it's using that power to ensure no one else suffers the way your loved ones did. The ballroom had transformed from a celebration of privilege to a masterclass in karma. As Victoria and George huddled with their rapidly dwindling circle of supporters, I gathered the serving staff. many of whom were scholarship students themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I announce, please remove your aprons. Tonight, everyone sits at the same table. The look of horror on Victoria's face as her carefully arranged social hierarchy crumbled was priceless. Even more so when Bradley's Harvard-bound friends suddenly discovered their own parents rushing to introduce them to the servant they'd been tormenting, my daughter, now revealed as a future classmate with more genuine credentials than they could claim. Isabella, Victoria tried one last time, her voice barely a whisper. Surely we can discuss this, privately, as family. Family? Sophia stepped forward. Was it family when you made me serve drinks while Bradley opened his Harvard acceptance letter? When you told everyone my mother's foundation was just a hobby for bored housewives? I didn't know. That's exactly the problem. I cut in. You never bothered to know. You were so convinced of your superiority that you couldn't see the truth right in front of you. George cleared his throat. About the board position, perhaps we could reach an arrangement. Oh, we will, I smiled. Starting with a complete audit of your tenure as treasurer. I'm particularly interested in those offshore accounts you thought nobody would notice. The color drained from his face as several board members who had been listening nearby quickly stepped away from him. Mom, Bradley approached, his earlier arrogance replaced by desperate calculation. You can't really mean to. I mean Harvard. We'll be very interested in learning how you actually achieved that acceptance, I finished. Unless, of course, you'd like to decline it now, gracefully, and perhaps spend a year doing community service while reapplying on your own merits. Victoria grabbed her son's arm. He will not. Then I make my first call tomorrow morning, I shrugged. Your choice. Sophia, who had remained remarkably composed, finally spoke up. You know what the worst part was, Aunt Victoria? I actually looked up to you once, before I understood that true class has nothing to do with money or status. The party was effectively over. The social elite of Manhattan had witnessed the fall of Victoria's carefully constructed empire, and the vultures were already circling. Tomorrow, every gossip column would be buzzing with the news of how the city's mysterious benefactor had revealed herself by teaching her cruel in-laws a lesson in humility. The foundation's annual gala is next month, I announced to the room. I expect to see a significant change in how scholarship students are treated before then. Otherwise, several private schools might find themselves suddenly underfunded. As the crowd dispersed, Michael pulled me close. Was it worth waiting all these years? I watched Victoria and George hurrying out, their social status in tatters, while Bradley sullenly accepted that his future would now depend on actual merit rather than privilege. Every second, I smiled. Sometimes the best lessons are the ones that hurt the most to learn. Sophia hugged me tight. Mom, you're amazing. But why did you let them treat us that way for so long? Because, sweetheart, true power isn't in showing off what you have. It's in knowing when to use it to create real change. And tomorrow, Morgan Academy starts fresh, with a chairperson who understands that worth isn't measured by wealth or status, but by character. As we left the ballroom, I paused by the shattered champagne glasses still lying on the floor, the ones that had marked the moment everything changed. Oh, and Victoria, I called out to her retreating back. Don't worry about the cleanup. For once, you can do it yourself. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying your enemies, but in forcing them to face their own reflection in the shattered pieces of their prejudice. And tomorrow, when the sun rose on a new era at Morgan Academy, every student would walk through those doors knowing that merit, not money, would determine their future. That was worth every moment of waiting for the perfect revenge.